10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coffee.
Begone 2017! For now, we enter into the new age, where a heater is currently blasting all of its radiance upon my horrendous face. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. Time to go into the first coffee break of 2018!
Sit.
My goodness, 2018 already. Kinda glad that the old year was over. A lot of things that I really didn't like about that year. But hey! I'm here now. You're here now. It is a new year and it's time to be a new man. For instance, finishing off what is left. I'm just really hoping that this year goes well. And you know what? Just for the sake of being chaotic, I'm going to crack a forcedly cold one with the boys. It's Monster. I would call the New Year's segment a monster break, but I'm not that popular yet. So tough for me. I forgot how okay Ultraviolet was. So do I have any New Year's resolutions for 2018? Well, that's easy. Finish the frickin' Calamity Mod soundtrack! So before we move on to 2018 and stomp 2017 to the ground, let's just review how far we've come.
Sit.
Don't worry, this project isn't dead. I'm probably going to upload. Or I probably did. I have no clue what I just did. But if I did, then yay, it started. It begins. But I've been so focused on Calamity, and you're going to see why right now.
Sit.
Now, I want you to look closely at this list. Do you notice something? Because I do. And it's pretty obvious how excited I am because we're 10 tracks left until the final 3! Let's go! We're all nearing the end. My goodness. It almost feels like last year when I started this project. Hell, it was last year. What the f*** am I talking about? Well, anyway, the last 10 tracks are kinda going to be easy because there's 4 tracks that are not as important, and those are the themes of the Sentinels, which I've already started work on, but have to stop because I'm already working on Slime God. Then we got the Profane Guardians, we got the Profane Crags, and one other track that I'm not sure whether or not we've talked about already. I'll ask the devs if they've released any information about this thing.
Sit.
So, now that we got our usual news out of the way, it's time for... This time, we're going to make it a little bit more interesting. We're going to add 10 more questions. Let's do this. Question 1. Do you like your life? I like the fact that I'm making music. If that answers your question, it probably doesn't. Question 2. Will you make vanilla boss themes? That greatly depends. If you guys know how to mod individual bosses to have, like, their own custom thing, I would like to know whether or not that's possible, because I have all these ideas on how to remix one theme for one specific boss, so in this case, Eye of Cthulhu and Skeletron would sound completely different from each other, yet hold the same motif of Boss 1, if you get what I'm saying. Just let me know. Let me know. Question 3. How long does it take to make one loop? If you're talking about a song, it could take about up to 1 week, 2 weeks, or maybe even 2 months. It really depends on how far I'm willing to go with the song. For instance, Forbidden Lullaby took that much longer because I wanted to find out whether or not I could pull off an epic orchestral metal kind of feeling. And I'm glad I took that much time into it because if I half-assed it, it would just sound terrible. Question 4. If you could go on vacation to any place in the world, where would it be? Oh dear, I don't want to get too personal, but I'm going to have to stick with Alaska. If there's one thing I need to see in my life as a musician, it has to be the Northern Lights. Question 5. What is your favorite brand of coffee? I usually go for Dunkin Donuts whenever I need to half my morning, but in the event that I don't and actually prepare some coffee for myself, I usually just go with Folgers. Question 6. What's planned for the future? Music. Question 7. What VSTs do you commonly use? Just recently, I bought some extensions for Superior Drummer 2, although now I've heard that it's actually upgraded to Superior Drummer 3, FML, and I even got symphonic choirs. And I even got a mushroom generator, which you've heard on Crabulon's theme. It only makes 2-dimensional mushrooms, though. Sorry. Though for the 3D mushrooms and any other 3D mush that I could actually make, I use a mix of both Blender and OsciStudio. Question 8. Do you watch anime? I'm going to say yes, and if you're going to ask me which one is my favorite, don't laugh, but it's Final Fantasy Unlimited. Now get this. The same guy who made the music for Final Fantasy Unlimited was the same dude that actually worked on Bomberman 64's soundtrack. What the hell? Holy shit! Now, if you guys don't know, I love Bomberman 64. It was one of those games that really got me into thinking about how music affects a really good story. That, and I played it religiously back in, like, 1999? Question 9! After Calamity is done, will you focus on other mods? Sad to say this, but no. I honestly don't see a reason to go on, especially since the community behind Terraria modding is slowly getting on my nerves. Don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying making Calamity mod music, but not if the modding community is going to be like this, you know? I already had to yell at one community, don't make me yell at another. Question 10! How much salt can you survive? What? Do you mean how much salt can I intake before I go into shock? I don't know. Honestly, you guys give me enough hypernatremia as it is. Question 11! How do you exist? Question 12! Have you ever drank too much coffee? Nope. Question 13! What's your best advice for people who want to look into making music? Do not be afraid to experiment! The reason why all of these songs sound so differently from one another is because I am not afraid to experiment with different genres. Crabulon was one of my first instances of making oscilloscope music and/or psytrance. Forbidden Lullaby was one of my first instances of making an orchestral metal ballad. Fly of Beelzebub was one of my first instances of making an original Bimani sounding song. Never be afraid to experiment. Question 14! Who would you say is your biggest inspiration and why? I would say Knower, Jake Kaufman, Akifumi Tada, as we've just went through, Jun Chikuma and Camellia. But I would have to say that my biggest inspiration is Jun Chikuma. She practically introduced me to the drum and bass world, albeit at a very young age, so I was explaining this music to, let's say, my teachers, and they had no idea what I was talking about. I was kind of a black sheep of the elementary school. Question 15! How long does it normally take to make one original theme for Calamity? I would have to say about 3 weeks at a minimum. Question 16! What keeps you moving forward? If you ever have bad days, what keeps you driven to keep going forward with life? That's actually kind of an easy question to answer. I just have to constantly remind myself that I... Question 17! Where did your name and picture come from? Well, if you're talking about the new picture that I have right now, it was designed by Fats Geronimo. As for the name... This game is so f***ing cool! Question 18! Where do you get the inspiration for these songs? I could name a few off of the top of my head. Fly of Beelzebub was inspired by a few songs from SoundVoltex. Frail Amalgamation was actually inspired by some of the songs on Ruby. The Leviathan Trilogy was inspired by a mix of Nightwish and Eric Whitacre. And of course, as you've seen, Crabulon was inspired by Jerobeam Fenderson. Question 19! What was it like during your time at Breakbit and ROFLTrax? I could definitely say that without them, I would never be where I am. Even though I was an insufferable child at the time, it definitely brought me some humility to know that I am working with actual musicians, people that actually put their time on the line to make these songs for you. So keeping that in mind, it was pretty great. And finally, question 20! Will you work on a theme for the Lord? No. Were you expecting something?
Sit.
And that about wraps up this month's coffee break. If you enjoy the content of music, gameplay videos, highlights from Twitch or whatever, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow my Twitch, follow my Twitter, I don't know. Do what you want to do. I honestly don't care as long as you do you. I'm fine with that. And I will see you all next time. Another day late. Bullshit, Dokuro. You managed to fuck up